Here's why I believe Paul from the Christian religion is a false prophet. He never met Jesus, he was never chosen by Jesus.
Except for the fact that Paul and Luke both write down that Paul saw Jesus and was picked by Jesus.
And he's not one of the 12 disciples. So why does most of the New Testament come from Paul? Let's go ahead and break down the facts. Jesus said, worship one God, and he preached the message of the oneness of God.
As Jesus taught that there is one God that we worship, if you're referring to Unitarianism as the oneness, then no, Jesus never taught that. In fact, his Great Commission says to go baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, which is a tri-personal God.
Paul changed that. He is the one who introduced the idea that Jesus is God.
Actually, every gospel affirms that Jesus is God. So does the book of Acts, John's writings, Peter's writings, Jude's writings. They all teach that Jesus is God. This was not a Pauline-only thing.
That was never Jesus' idea.
Except for the numerous times Jesus claimed to be God, like when he said that he and the Father are one, when he claimed to be head of the council, when he claimed to be the cloud rider or the Son of Man.
Those words came from Paul. Jesus came down and preached the same message that the Jewish prophets preached before him. And then Paul came around and told people that they don't need to pay attention to those laws. You don't need to get circumcised. It's fine to eat pork. He literally just abolished God's laws that were set in place.
Actually, Paul continued to live on as a good Jew. He continued in those traditions, but Peter's also one of the people that came out and said, you don't need to eat this, according to a vision he had from God. And Paul's whole point is that the Gentiles who are being brought in do not need to follow these laws in order to be saved. He never says they couldn't follow if they wanted to. In order to be a Christian, it is the faith, as he states in Galatians, that it is the faith that is the foundation of what Judaism is and what Christianity is. And that following the law or just following God in general is an outpouring of that faith.
Paul had claimed that he had visions from Jesus, yet there's no proof and nobody else that can verify that.
Except we have Luke, who also recorded that Paul had visions and that he had people there with him when those happened.
His word and nothing else, and that's not how prophets work.
So you keep calling Paul a prophet, he's an apostle. Those are different.
History even proves that the early followers of Jesus disagreed with Paul and even argued with him.
They had the Jerusalem Council, of which they concluded that the idea that Gentiles had to follow the law in order to be Christians is not good theology, and they came out and said that it is faith that is what establishes the foundation of Christianity, not works.
Jesus came down to spread the real Christianity. Paul created his own religion called Paulism.
The only people who call it that are you guys.
And modern Christians today practice Paulism. They don't follow the true teachings of Jesus. Just ask yourself, if Jesus taught one thing and Paul teaches a different thing, who are you really following?
If I look at Paul's writings and see that he quotes Jesus in 1 Corinthians and that he is affirmed by the other apostles as teaching the right thing and as consistent with Jesus, then he's actually teaching what Jesus taught and is just expanding on it for the churches that needed help. So really, we're still following Jesus.